Hello everyone, I'm Paul Browning. I'm a wildlife photographer from Surrey in England. I've had the Sony A7V. I had it for 2 weeks, but not counting the rainy days, I probably had 6 days with it. I'd just like to thank Sony as well for this opportunity. We had so much fun using it and really...
Isn't it weather sealed?
Sorry?
Isn't it weather sealed? So you can have the road for the rain.
Oh, not English weather sealed. It probably is, yeah. But for the wildlife, it was, some days were really torrential kind of rain. Yeah, so I started off using Sony cameras 10 years ago, next year actually, and I used to do sports. It's mainly alpine sports, and I've ended up in wildlife, which is where my passion is. But I think if you kind of look at my wildlife and my style of shooting, it's that kind of looking for that moment, that kind of action shot. So my goal with this camera is to really kind of push it, try and cover basically there was four things I thought were important to me as a wildlife photographer, or which can also be a sports photographer. So it's kind of things I needed to capture a moment or not miss a shot. So the autofocus and the AI tracking. Being silent is very important to me in wildlife. Low light performance, and then we've got the frames per second and the pre-capture. So what I decided to do was choose 3 projects where I could push those functions of the camera, so I was able to talk to you guys and talk to anyone who asked me how it performed and what it was like. So obviously a favourite in England and favourite on my socials is the kingfisher. It's a very difficult bird to photograph. So with the kingfisher, I'm going to be relying on the pre-capture for any launches from the branch, and then the 30 frames per second to capture the whole sequence. So you've got from diving to coming out of the water to flying back up and then landing with his dinner. There's obviously frames in between, but just to show you a shortened version of that. So, and also with the kingfisher, I'm actually, because I'm at such high shutter speeds, I'm going to be needing high ISO. So they perch in the shadows, everything's quite dark, it's early in the morning, doesn't look it. And also I'm going to need good dynamic range because he's going to come flying out of the shadows into the sunlight. So I need to know I can push my ISO quite high without worrying. I mean, I think when he dives, I'm at 3,200 second shutter speed. It's the minimum I'd go. It's a very small bird, which can take my ISO to 3,200 and upwards to expose my photo well. So performed beautifully. I didn't have any trouble with it. The auto tracking will lock onto the bird, and what amazed me with this was when the kingfisher went into the water and came back out, it was still holding on to the bird like it had predicted. And before I've had that sequence get ruined because the camera kind of focused on the splash of water rather than staying with the bird, which I thought was really cool. Oh, the pre-capture words must start, that's annoying. But I had a good example of a pre-capture. So this is a great spotted woodpecker. You can kind of, fairly common bird, but a shy bird that can be disturbed very easily. And I thought this was a perfect example of the pre-capture, which I always have set to 1 second. So in effect, I'm taking 60 frames on a press and 30 frames are before I've even reacted. So it's definitely a moment I would have missed just my own reactions through that. So I thought the pre-capture is just an awesome feature to have as a wildlife photographer, because you can't react sometimes as quick as a subject in the field. So then I moved on. My next project, I wanted to get some birds of prey, so which don't involve high shutter speeds, but you have to generally be silent. You have to move slowly and carefully. So I went down to the southwest of England and I was actually looking for sparrowhawks. So a sparrowhawk will be inside dark bushes, kind of hunting small birds. It's a fantastic bird, but I couldn't find them, unfortunately. But we did find a female kestrel, And I was obviously on her land, so this is a farmland, so I'm lying in cow pat and stuff, if you want me to paint the picture. And she was just checking me out. I was clearly in her territory, but again, the tracking stayed with her, so all I really had to do was keep her in my view, my viewfinder, and it just locked onto her beautifully. And then obviously I had electronic silent shooting, so it didn't disturb her. I do find birds of prey are a bit like owls. They kind of prefer to know you're there rather than you be completely hidden and you startle them. So she definitely knew I was there, but I was being quiet, I was being still, and it made it that she came over just to investigate me, which was just awesome. So the final set, so these are just when, I'm going to show you a short film in a minute, which is what we filmed for the Alpha EU website. So we spent 2 days in the woodlands of Windsor, and then one of the days was too rainy for me, so we ended up refilming it. We had a just beautiful day, beautiful ancient woodlands. Some of the trees are like 500 years old, where Henry VIII used to hunt, and it's full of tiny little birds. And I thought it's going to be a perfect test of the camera to lock onto a bird that's going in and out of bushes, and the light's changing quite fast. So this was just nothing spectacular, but the autofocus and the tracking, the way it held on to birds was, I couldn't believe. It was just then down to me to keep it, as I was saying, in the viewfinder. So a bird that disappeared in a bush or behind a tree, it locked on it, stayed on it. I used back button focus. So once I was locked on, it was just down to me to follow the birds. Yeah, and it was just beautiful to use. I'd like to point out, these are all JPEGs. They're all straight from the camera. I had no access to RAW files, so I couldn't go home and edit, which I feel like I'd become a little bit lazy with it. I felt like if I'd exposed the photo correctly, I knew I could get home and kind of make it how I wanted. But these are all JPEGs straight out of the camera, which made me behave better. I had to get it right in the camera. I had to think about my composition. And I was genuinely shocked when I opened them up in Lightroom, and it kind of denoised them. I shoot in a funny way that I keep my histogram off the left, and then I have my zebra stripes on to tell me if and I do everything manual. So as long as I was exposed right, and yeah, these are straight from the camera JPEGs, which I thought it blew my mind a little bit, if I'm honest. So I'm just going to play the video we made, and then I've got a final slide that I'd like to show you. I'm Paul Browning, wildlife photographer from Surrey in England. Most of my life is spent outdoors, chasing the light, following the seasons, and waiting for those special moments when nature reveals something extraordinary. I'm very lucky today to be trying out the brand new Sony A7V in these beautiful colours of the English countryside. This is a camera built for real conditions, for those moments you can't predict, because out here every second counts. The light can fade fast, the weather can turn quickly, but the wildlife will never wait for you. Autumn has always been one of my favourite times of year. The light can change by the hour and the colours change daily. It's the season that teaches you to adapt, to learn the landscape, and to be ready for the unexpected. The A7V has not let me down with the autofocus. I mean, I'm tracking birds moving behind trees, in and out of bushes, and it's staying locked on even when the bird comes out the other side. And coupled with the 30 frames per second bursts, it's absolutely superb. I'm getting some amazing photos with this camera. Pinnacle of features for wildlife photography, and that's pre-capture. I can set the camera to pre-capture 1 second of my burst, so that's faster than my brain can react, and I'm not going to miss a frame of action. Out here, I'm not just photographing nature, I feel like I'm a part of it, and that's what keeps me coming back day after day, year after year. Cool. And then I basically wanted to finish on this slide because this is a green woodpecker, and I have been trying to get close to a green woodpecker for as long as I can remember. They're one of the shyest birds. They hunt on the ground for ants. And as I was photographing the kestrel, it must have landed 5-6 meters in front of me as I'm lying on the ground. And I mean, it looks kind of better on the laptop, but the contrast of the sun coming in and then this beautiful black contrast on the left and then keeping all the details. Remember, this is a JPEG straight from the camera. And it was just the icing on the cake of this experience, and I've just had the best time. And I'm around all day with the camera, and I'd be happy to chat to anyone and discuss kind of wildlife and action kind of use of the camera. Thank you very much.